Okay, everyone, this lesson's going to be a two-parter because there's a lot to go over. We're going to touch on cause and effect, rhetorical modes, and introduce the concept of logical fallacies. I've already talked a little bit about logical fallacies and rhetorical modes in earlier videos, so hopefully this will be more of going in depth for you. So the first item we need to talk about is what is a rhetorical mode? Rhetorical modes are also called modes of discourse. They come originally from oration or public speaking, but now they're actually applied more in writing context, in the writing context, in the essays that we write, the types of writing that we do. And all they are different methods or strategies that writers use to effectively communicate their ideas. You've already used one, that's exemplification, right? So exemplification is where we focus on examples. Um, we're learning a new one right now called cause and effect, and I'm sure you're familiar with some of these other ones like narration and definition, division and classification. Your textbook has sections on a number of them, and there's really quite a lot and a lot of variety for rhetorical modes. So the main one we're looking at today is cause and effect. So cause and effect is claiming that an outcome can be directly linked to a source. So essentially your thesis for this paper will be a statement along the lines of A caused B, right? Or uh, well, basically that's the summation of it. A caused B, but you need to make sure that you have evidence that shows clearly the connection between the source and the outcome. I guess the variation would be if you have multiple outcomes directly tied to a source or multiple sources that lead to a single outcome. And your textbook goes over those different patterns. But I think that's a little bit of overcomplication for our sakes, and I'm going to talk more about that probably in the second part of this video. So when we're looking at cause and effect essays, our primary area of focus or organization is this idea of a causal chain. So that's where we might look at something as simple. I mean, I'm basing this loosely on y'all's prompt for this paper. We may look at something as simple as an increase to the minimum wage, and then looking at all the different things that bring it to the outcome, that tie it to the outcome of, let's say, improved consumer confidence indexes. You might hear those terms in the news from time to time. Consumer confidence indexes look at how much consumers are spending on goods, and that from that they determine whether they're confident in the economy, they're feeling good, because people are more likely to spend more money if they're feeling good. So you can make the argument using that evidence that a rise in minimum wage in a specific community can be shown to increase consumer confidence. That's a causal chain. And you look at each of the pieces of evidence that ties that outcome to that source. So this essay is mainly about examining a source and explaining how it leads to the outcome identified. And you're going to look at the prompt and you're going to determine something in your career field, some sort of change in your career field that caused a certain outcome. So typically a positive thing. And in this case, I think this prompt focuses in an increase in salary. So what's the outcome? What's the identifiable outcome of that increase in salary? Now, you may think of this very simplistically and think, well, the increase in salary means the employees have more money to spend, so they're better able to support their families. That would seem like the most obvious cause-effect relationship. But you may also look at an increase in employee performance and productivity as directly tied to that increase in income. and be able to prove that as well. Because if people are happier, they're typically more productive. So that's just to give you some ideas of where to start thinking about writing this essay. So I want to emphasize this again. There are numerous variations on this. Your textbook reading, hopefully you read your textbook, demonstrates all the different organizational structures that can be used to make sense of a causal change or causal relationships, relationships between causes and effects. You can look at a single cause leading to multiple effects, or multiple causes leading to a single effect. Uh, it's just really complicated. I think the best thing to do is to think of this in terms of one source, one outcome. When you're writing this, particularly if this is the first time you've really written a cause and effect essay, you want to keep it as focused and narrow as possible. You'll have the most success doing this. So, warning, writers and researchers are prone to see causation where there's only correlation. If you don't know what those terms mean, here's the difference between the two. Correlation shows a relationship between two variables. Essentially, I put on my shoes and I walked outside, right? Those are two events that typically seem like they're in a sequence, and so they would be a cause and effect relationship to many people. They would be wrong, though. I did not walk outside because I put on my shoes. My shoes may have allowed me to walk outside, may have prompted me to walk outside, but they were not the cause. They were not the source of the outcome. It's just a correlation. A did not lead to B. Causation, which is what you're focused on in a cause and effect essay, is literally being able to prove that one variable led to a change in another variable. So one choice, one source created a single outcome, or multiple choices led to a single outcome, or a single choice led to multiple outcomes, or multiple choices led to multiple outcomes. Again, all of those are the really complicated versions of this. Focus on one-to-one. This led to this. That's what I want you to do. And because so many people fall into the trap of confusing correlation and causation, it's really easy to fall into logical fallacies. And there's two particular logical fallacies that students are prone to using in a cause and effect paper. So in order to know what not to do, you need to know what a logical fallacy is. And you've probably heard this term before. Remember, rhetorical fallacies is another version of this term, a synonym. So they are errors in reasoning that weaken an argument. They may sound persuasive or convincing, but they lack logical validity and often distract from the real issue. And they are extremely common. You see them all the time in the media. I mean, they're all over the place. Even politicians who you may think are, the greatest people on earth constantly use them. Movie stars, actors, singers, teachers. People use logical fallacies constantly. I bet you use them. So the two main ones we're worried about here are false cause and slippery slope. So now I want you to go to part 2 of the video, and I'll go into more detail on those logical fallacies.